a day when the live stream is going to start and I will actually be here. But unfortunately, the legends haven't been fulfilled today. So there's always tomorrow. But how's it going, chat? Really interesting time we're having. I noticed that there's a lot of allegations in the media, and I'm like, well, what's going on? Why are there so many allegations? And then you find out the elections in the United States. I wonder, like, how is it that there's like all these people that have crimes committed against them and they're afraid to speak out, right? Like, imagine this. Someone breaks into your house, but you're afraid to speak out. And it's only until you see your burglar doing something like they become popular or they're running for office. That's when you decide to not press charges. Who presses charges nowadays? No, you go to the media. You go to the journalists. And you're like, I've been robbed. And the journalists go, really? Oh, who did this to you? And you're like, that guy. And the journalist goes, we must ruin him. And people are like, do we actually wait for a conviction? Or do we... No, now. But like, what if they didn't... They must have done it. I mean, there are allegations. But can you dismiss the... No. Unless you're Kavanaugh. Kavanaugh manages to dismiss allegations. What I love is YouTube. In the case of Russell, YouTube actually does have a clause, I guess, where they actually do say that they will punish people who do not conduct themselves properly offline. And I'm like, okay, you know, I guess. I mean, sure. But just getting allegations doesn't necessarily mean that you didn't conduct yourself properly. Like, aren't we going to wait for the allegations to be resolved one way or another? No. Who does that? Who waits for the allegations to be resolved? No one. Yeah, he did hurt YouTube's environment. In reality, I will tell you this. It may actually not be YouTube's fault. From what I gathered, this is what's really interesting. Most people don't even know this shit. It's not hidden or anything. Like, there's no conspiracy. It's just that it's not necessarily made public. Most advertisers in the world have created a sort of monopoly. I mean, it's not really accurate to say... You have, like, the major brands, right? So you got, like, the Coca-Colas, the Walmarts, like, all the major brands have joined forces into a sort of union. And this union, I forgot the name of it. I don't think it's GLAAD. Like, they got, like, a acronym for it. And what they do is they set terms of service for social media. They're basically, like, some of the biggest companies in the world that do advertising. And they're basically flat out tell Facebook or they tell YouTube, like they will say, if you want us to advertise on your platform, you need these terms of service. And if you don't put them, like, all these companies will just not advertise there at all, right? So it is possible that in the situation of Russell, it's just like these companies are saying, all right, well, you get rid of him. Now, YouTube may say, well, we don't want to get rid of him. It's like, okay, but I don't put our adverts on his name. And they're like, all right. But what's interesting is, like, I spoke in my video, if you managed to see it. The BBC did this. And they do this a lot. Like, this is a journalistic tactic to the point where it's difficult to call them journalists anymore because they're pretty much operatives, right? Like, political operatives. And what they do is, like, let's say that I want to get American Outlier fired. I don't like him. I want to get him fired. He gave me $2. I shouldn't get him fired, though. I hope your day is good. See, now it's difficult to get him fired. He's a nice guy. But let's say I want to get him fired. How do I do it? You call his employer and you say, hey, I'm a journalist writing for such and such. I write for the Wall Street Journal. I write for Washington Post. I write for the BBC. I'm making a story about fascists. Did you know that you hire a fascist? How do you comment? Please, hurry. I'm on a deadline. Hurry up. And then usually the HR lady, right, like she receives the email, she goes like, whoa, shocking, we hired a fascist. All right, well, we're firing him. Like, right? So they fire American Outlier. And then the journalists write story. Major company has fired the alleged fascist American Outlier. They actually did that in the past. Tim Pool made a segment about it. Her name was April. I think, I don't know if it was with Count Dankula. But it's basically like how they use their position and the power of their paper in order to get individuals fired. Right? Because like if American Outlier is making a manga and he is getting, let's say, a publication being like, did you know that you're hiring a communist? Like, this guy is, like, advocating for the removal of private property, a communist. And you're like, holy shit, do I want this on my plate or not? Is this guy really this important for the company? No. Okay, well, it depends, right? Like, not all people behave like this. But this is how it's done. Like, this is what's happening behind closed doors. So when BBC goes, it's like, oh, well, we asked YouTube a day before, and today YouTube said that they demonetized them. It's like, oh, I see. So it may have been like this, right? Like, did you know that there are allegations against this person? How do you respond? You are financing hate. It's not even like they don't have to lie. Right? Like, at none of this point, like, first of all, it's difficult to sue them. Because you do not know the conversations they have with your boss. Right? Like, you're not, they do this behind closed doors, which is why it's so effective, because you can't really sue them. Right? You can't prove that they got you to lose money. So, that is, like, the first problem. And the second issue is that, they're not really lying, right? Like, they will say alleged. And you can be like, well, who called me a fascist? And they can be like, well, it's alleged. And if they say alleged, it's simply that one or two people can do it. And there you fucking go. So, the interesting thing is that I think, like, the market is going to be super saturated with all of these accusations. Like, you had the Kavanaugh accusations. Donald Trump had his accusations. Johnny Depp had his accusations. Now Russell is having accusations. And, you know, like, at one point, people are just going to be fed up. And they're going to be like, dude, like, are any of these accusations actually going to court? Is anyone, like, actually finding these people guilty? Is there a way that someone with these unholy accusations can prove that they didn't do anything? And if the answer is no, it's like, okay, well, what? Maybe next time there's an accusation, we take it seriously, we investigate. But we don't ruin someone's life until we have an answer. So, Tim Ballard, I think he's running for Senate. Tim Ballard announces he runs. Let's see. Runs for Senate, I think. Yeah. This is here we go. Tim Ballard considers to run for Senate. This was 3 days ago. Isn't it fascinating? Like, literally 3 days. I'm not saying that this is connected with the other thing, but I'm just noticing that there is a pattern. Usually when people who are outside of the established, like people who you don't expect to run, let's put it like this, right? People who you don't expect to run, the moment they run, allegations just come out. They just happen. They materialize. Which, again, I genuinely have to wonder. This is a legit question, right? If someone breaks into your house, why wouldn't you go to the cops? Well, you're afraid. Okay, so you're afraid. You've been afraid for like 3 or 4 years, and then when that person, the burglar, wants to run for office, they're like, fuck it, I had enough. Is this something which happens? Would be nice if the FTC would enforce those antitrust laws. Oh, it would be fucking nice. Though what we're talking about is also in the UK, so I don't think... I know that the FTC is powerful, but I don't think it's that powerful. I don't think it actually manages to reach into the Kingdom United. Unsubstantiated allegation, like these are becoming like a badge of honor, which is frankly horrifying. It's interesting because like when the left is accused, unsubstantiated allegations. Like literally, this is how the media spins it, right? Like if Nancy Pelosi gets accused of something or Biden, unsubstantiated allegations, conspiracy theories, no evidence whatever. When the right gets accused, serious serious allegations. It's interesting. Everyone has a file. They just choose when to open it. It is interesting that the election, right? Because they will say, well, yeah, but like there's too many allegations. So like, look, one or two, we understand, but like so many allegations. And I'm like, all right, so the election in the United States, weren't there allegations against it? Why aren't we applying the same idea then? Why can't we apply the same... why is it like... Do we have like different crimes that have like different procedures now? So like if it's a sexual abuse allegation, then well, we need to make sure that the person doesn't work, even though it hasn't gone to court, even though like the person didn't bring any evidence, no witnesses, no logs, chat logs, no nothing. It's just like their word. Okay. So we ruined the person's life, so no, okay, yeah, fine. But like if it's a burglary? Oh, if it's a burglary, it's different. Alright, I see. Naruhodo. Stop noticing, V. It's not healthy to notice things. Oh yeah, like there is a huge war on noticing. Like you're not allowed to notice anything. The moment you notice, it's bad. Oh, yeah, I also noticed this. Oh shit, look, I did it again. Let's say there's like a terrorist attack in France. This used to be the case. Not anymore though. Now you can notice. But back then you couldn't. It was a politically incorrect. Was a terrorist attack, right? But like not a big one. Small one. Not in horror or seriousness, in scale. If you started talking about it, and you noticed who did it, was it good? But like if you had the page where you noticed like 5 terrorist attacks and you noticed the connection between them, you unironically got banned from Twitter. Like I know people who were noticing too much and they got banned. Like literally a war on notice. Like their problem, and this is like legit how the left thinks. I'm not even making it up. Like this is my experience with left-leaning people. If something bad happens in real life, they will choose not to talk about it and they will be upset at the person talking about it. Like, they believe you do more harm if you talk about the event than the event itself. Like, they will not be outraged at the people who committed the event, which is, you know, perpetuating stigma and stereotype and all of that shit. They're not actually upset or livid at the criminals. They're upset and livid at the people talking about the criminals because the people talking about the criminals are the ones that are perpetrating the stereotype, the stigma, the racismus, the phobismus, the blah, blah, blah. Right? So, unironically, in the mind of a left-leaning person, a progressive individual, they have more disdain and more hatred for the political commentator that talks and notices these things than they have for the actual person that commits bad stuff in the real world. Google Roy Moore, Alabama allegations. Wait, today? Roy Moore, Alabama? Why does he have the name of a city, though? Huh? Sorry, a state. Oh, he's awarded $8.2 million in a defamation lawsuit. Ooh la la. You know, in times like this, I would love to get allegations as well. Hold on, what is this nonsense? Apparently people are claiming that Elon Musk is asking people to pay for Twitter. Like, to use Twitter. I don't think that's true. I would have heard it. Just, give me a second. Pretty sure it's not true. Because like then the business wouldn't be sustainable. Elon Musk is reportedly considering the idea of charging everyone to use Twitter. Misleading post. In a recent interview with the Prime Minister of Israel. Why was Elon Musk talking? Stated that they will introduce lower tier pricing for premium members. There was no mention of everyone being charged to use X. I mean, you know, like in one way, people keep going. It's like, oh well, we want free speech. We want to use the platform, but like the platform costs, if I'm not mistaken, like $1 million to use per day. So, if he's not getting money from advertisers, like obviously he needs to find alternative sources, which means that people who use the platform need to pay. But anyway, yeah, he can't get like random people to pay because then no one would fucking use the platform. There's literally no platform on the internet that's just communication only requires people to pay. The only way you would pay for a platform, like I'll tell you, is if you make a platform that's like 100% secure, like 100% encrypted, 100% secure. There's no data collection, no data harvesting, and you can literally say whatever the fuck you want. Then that would probably exist, but it would violate a lot of European laws. So I don't even know what it would happen. But like basically if you make a platform, like the post office used to work back when your grandma was in diapers, right? So like, or the phone company used to work back in the day. If you make like even the concept of the phone company today that would work as it used to be in the past is incredibly dangerous for our democracy. Like people will go, but like what about the children, the safety, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, okay, but like back in the day, you could pick up a phone, you could phone literally anyone you wanted, and you could talk about literally anything you wanted. And the only way that like someone would listen in is if they illegally bugged your phone, or if they actually managed to get a court order, and then they would like listen on the telephone wire, you know, while having like a minivan or some shit. But like, think about it. No, like seriously, this was what freedom meant. It's like you can send a piece of mail to anyone you wanted, and no one had the right to open it. And you could like pick up a phone and talk to anyone you wanted, right? And of course, with freedom comes danger. Could there have been people that sent, I don't know, CP or illegal stuff in the mail? Yes. Were there people that could organize a bank robbery on the phone? Yes. But like, in order to have freedom, you have to trust that most people don't do that. And you also have to trust that the authorities are competent enough to catch people who do that without having to listen into the phones or reading people's mail. But like, if you had a system like that today online, where let's say you pay a fee and you can use a social media system without any data harvesting, like they're not trying to get a username or a password out of you, they're not trying to like connect your email to your Discord, to your age, your name, like, right? Like if they do that and they don't monitor like what you say, that would be illegal. Especially the European Union is now passing laws in order to make sure that is literally illegal. So like they genuinely do not want encryption to exist on the internet anymore. They do not want the idea that you can have some data that is encrypted and the government doesn't have access to it. They want the government to be able to encrypt shit and you not to have access to it. Like that's definitely true. Like the Pfizer contract, right? Like those can be encrypted. Those like, even like the European MP from Romania, when he wanted to look at the Pfizer contracts in the European Union, he wasn't allowed. So even like if you managed to get into the European Parliament, you still weren't allowed to view the Pfizer contracts, right? Like when it comes to the government hiding shit, they're allowed to hide shit. When it comes to you to have stuff, you're not allowed. Hey V, has political discourse ever been this cringe? Feels like middle school level tactics, finger pointing and shit throwing at each other. Yes. You gotta understand, political discourse is a science, alright? Like they do not do political discourse in order to impress people or convince people. They do what works. And in different countries, various tactics work. If you try the political discourse from the United States into Romania, no one would give a shit. If you try the political discourse from Romania into the United States, people would be horrified. Because the political discourse in Romania is way too cynical. They have like this level of brutal honesty with the people. And they don't like that. So for instance, right? If Romanians would all of a sudden, in this alternate reality, be leading the United States, right? So you only have like Romania or Romanian mindseted people. You put them in charge of the United States. They would be like, all right, so we're having the conflict with Russia because we want to weaken Russia as a challenger to the United States, and it's a lot better if we do it now because we can just pump money in Ukraine and no US soldier has to die. And in order to preserve the way of life and the wealth that you guys are experiencing, we need to dominate the trade routes. We need to make sure that Russia is weakened as a nation so that it doesn't ally with China and then invade Taiwan or some shit. If you have like this type of conversation at the US television as a politician, I think like Crenshaw had it, right? Like the politician with the eye patch, right? People were horrified. They were like, oh my god, like such cynical. Or we need to invade Iraq because we care about the petrodollar. The petrodollar guarantees the way of life in the United States. If we get rid of the petrodollar, then we have massive inflation. The way of life of the American people is going to be severely undermined. So this is why we're invading Iraq. If you want to see some scary stuff, look up Intel Management Engine, backdoor into any modern Intel machine. I'm not even scared. Like, this is just... They need the back door? Like, can't they use the front door? That's what scares me. Like, why are they using the front door? We've always had telephone switchboard workers, too. That's true, but, like, not at the level where they could, like, have an AI that would listen in to your every phone conversations. Every time I watch your stream, I hate humans more. Oh, come on. Don't hate humans. I'd vote for V. No, you wouldn't. Honestly, like the last guy which you guys had, and I wouldn't even say like he was brutally honest or anything like that, but like he would talk in a way that's more candid and more open, right? Like not like a politician, but he would basically say the things that affected him. It was Donald Trump. And what did people say? Oh, he's not presidential. Oh my god, how can you say that? Mean tweets, mean tweets. Unironically, I do believe that he lost a huge number of votes because of mean tweets. Like, no, seriously, like there are Republicans that didn't vote for Trump in the previous election because of mean tweets. And there's a lot of them. Like the mean tweets, again, like you cannot apply the politics of a nation into another. It doesn't always work. Like in Romania, no one would give a fuck about mean tweets. It'd be like, okay, well, he said mean tweets, so fucking what? Mean tweets. Who cares? But in America, oh my god, mean tweets. Mean tweets. I would pay for 100% free speech. Trump was honest. Yeah, I do think like he was honest. That's one of the problems. Like, you're not supposed to be honest when doing politics. You're supposed to say what people expect you to say. I mean, no, like in America, I will actually tell you. I will actually tell you exactly how things are like. So, you as a politician are more like an actor, if you will. And what I mean by this is like you have a team of writers that are going to write your speeches. You, as we saw with Biden, you probably already know what reporters are going to ask you, right? So like you find yourself into very pristine environments, right? Like very controlled environments. You have a team of people that teach you how to do body language. So they will literally teach you what to do with your hands. Like when you speak, you need to do this. And then you hold your hands like this. And, you know, you do like... Obama is actually very renowned for doing it. DeSantis as well, right? And it's like this type of shit. Like they basically like teach you what type of hand gesture to make when you're speaking something, right? So you don't go like me, like but then so you read from a prompter, you speak the things that are told, you act in the way that you're told, you dress in the way that you're told. Everything is fucking fake. Literally everything, right? This is why you don't really see politicians debate. Or when they do debate, they say some of the most dumbest shit that humanity has ever imagined. And it's to the point that when you listen to them, you're like, how the fuck are they this disconnected? Like, for instance, and this is on the right and the left, right? Like, on the left, remember when they started speaking Spanish? Like, the Democrats were like, oh, mi hablo, like, what the fuck are you doing, man? Like, literally, they started speaking Spanish. I was like, is this like the presidential debates in Mexico? Like, what the fuck? And not to mention, like, I would be offended. Like, if I'm in America and I see the Democrats started speaking Romanian, and they speak with, like, this really broken Romanian accent that's, like children that studied Romanian for more than 5 weeks speak better, I would be like, what the fuck? But anyway, right, so, Republicans do it as well. Like, the vice president, what was his name? Guy with the white hair, holy shit. Donald Trump's vice president. This is what happens when I don't get sleep. Anyway, he was with Tucker Carlson. John McCain. Holy shit, why did I? Right, he was with Tucker Carlson. And Tucker was like, okay, well, we're sending money to Ukraine. Not John McCain. Holy shit, Mike Pence. My bad. I don't know, like, what's happening. I just didn't get a lot of sleep today. Mike Pence, yeah. So he's basically talking about how the United States is sending too much money to Ukraine. And he's like, but what about the American cities? And Mike Pence, which allegedly wanted to run for presidency, says like, well, I don't care about the American cities. And I'm like, dude, like, you get, I as a YouTuber would do, like even if you don't care, like, let's assume he's being honest, right? Let's assume he's being honest and he legitimately doesn't care. Why the fuck would you say that in an interview if your goal is to run for presidency? Like, you can literally say anything else. You can frame it in a different way. Like, alright, even if you want to say that you don't care about American cities, you could say, well, according to the Constitution, American cities are in the charge of the governors. So it's up to the states, it's up to the governors to make sure that the American cities have prosperity. I, as the president, am more interested in foreign relations, blah, 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 blah. Like, you can frame it in a way so that you still say what you want to say, but at the same time, you don't say the shocking shit. It's like, I don't care about the American cities. But like, okay, but then why should the American cities care about you? Like, if you don't care about the people living in those cities, why should they vote for you? I think like the only time you should say that you don't care about the American cities if you're like the party of the farmers or some shit. You know, like, but even then, right? But let's assume like you make a party like they did in Denmark and they only care about farmers, right? Like they're the farmers union. And they're like, well, what about the people in the city? Well, we don't care about the people in the city. And like, that makes sense, right? Because like, it's the grievance. Like, you're saying that the people in the cities, they're voting against farmers' interests. So I represent the farmers and blah, blah, blah. Like, that would make a little bit more sense. But within that context, how come people wait 10, 15 years but can't be bothered to wait a few weeks until people find actual proof to condemn someone? Well, I actually did talk about this. And I explained the reason why we have statute of limitations. So, if you're accused of abusing someone, right? Like, you're accused of getting in a bar fight. Doesn't fucking matter. Any type of accusation, right? You're accused of giving a bribe. Perfect. Okay, so you're accused of giving a bribe. A bribe is also as difficult to prove as rape. In fact, rape is a little bit more difficult to prove because the difference between rape and normal sex is consent. So if you only have two people in a room and no recording, no witnesses, right? Like usually when it happens, like there's no one there. So if one person says that they consented and the other person says they didn't, like who do you believe, right? It's very difficult to prove. Usually it can be proven with witnesses, chat logs, audio recordings, but still. But let's say a crime that's easier to prove. Let's say bribery, right? Bribery is a lot easier to prove because there's a financial transaction taking place. It's still difficult, though. It's still very difficult. So let's say that you're accused of taking a bribe, right? You're a police officer and someone accuses you of taking a bribe. Now, if the accusation happens within a week, it's very difficult to prove that you did it, but you can still prove in a way like having an alibi. And you're saying, well, I couldn't have taken a bribe, because, like, why? Well, when did this person say that I took it? Well, he says you took it Saturday night. And you're like, well, yeah, but like Saturday night I was out of town. Can you prove that? Yeah, I got some friends. Right? So you're basically showing that the person is full of shit because there's no way they could have bribed you since you were out of town. Or you can say, like, all right, so, like, what is this person saying? It's like, well, when you were at a traffic stop, you asked him for money. And you're like, okay, but that day I was sick for work, so I didn't go to work, so I couldn't have been at a traffic stop, right? But like, this can only happen if the accusation is recent. If they're accusing you, like, 10 years later, or 15 years later, I mean, do you remember what you did 5 years ago? I don't remember what I did last month. But, like, seriously, do you remember, like, if I accuse you that 5 years ago, you were with me at the party and you wanted to put it in my pucker, can you prove that you weren't? I guess it was like, well, at the New Year's, even if it's like a major event, it's like at the New Year's party 5 years ago. I mean, come on. There's no way you can prove it. Right, disprove it, I mean. No way you can disprove it. And the thing is, like, the person doesn't have to prove it. Because that's another thing, right? Like, if I accuse someone, like, if you go to the cops, you need to bring some sort of proof, or at least the cops have to do some sort of investigation. So, like, if I say that my house was robbed, right, like there was a burglary, then the cops come in, and they want to see a broken window. They want to see a door that was forced. They want to see a lock that was jimmied. They want to see a video camera. They want to see something, right? Because I can't just say, well, I've been robbed. And the cops go in, and they see no sign of forced entry. They see none of the goods missing that should be in a house. Like, I still have my TV. I still have, right? And if they see all that, and there's no witnesses, there's no camera, you know what the cops do? They drop the fucking investigation. Like, if they have, like, absolutely no clues, there's no fingerprints, there's no nothing, they will be like, okay, well, maybe you did get robbed, but, like, what do you want us to do about it? There's no evidence. So, when you make an accusation, you need to back it with something. You need to, like, show some sort of thing that, you know, maybe some chat logs, maybe a video recording. Like, look, a video recording. This guy got in my house. I don't know him. Right? And that's when the accusations are serious allegations. But when it's something that is just like you're basically just claiming it, I mean, anyone can do it, right? I said only 4 fingers, but he put the whole hand. Yeah, like, I mean, that's another thing. Again, like, rape is very difficult to prove. Unfortunately, because no one wants to condone rape. I mean, I know that the feminists, like, they're like, oh, rape apology. No one likes it, okay? Because even if it doesn't affect you, because they'll be like, oh, you're a man, why do you care? Well, I do have a wife. I don't, but other men do have a mother. Mine passed away, unfortunately. But, like, some people have a mother, a grandmother, a daughter. Like, of course you care. Right? No one wants to live in a society where they're worried. It's like, oh, well, my wife is supposed to come home. Oh, she's late 5 minutes. Holy shit, is she okay? No one wants to live like that, right? So it's not about, like, men versus women. It's really about fairness and justice. And unfortunately, yeah, like, rape is very difficult to prove. And it can be. It's like, as someone in the chat said, it's like, oh, well, I only allowed him for 4 fingers, but he put the whole fist. I mean, sure, but, like, you need to have some sort of evidence that it happened. And thank you, Andre. Right, so as you can see, the Sound of Freedom hero is now under allegations. I'm wondering if YouTube is going to 7 women, apparently. So, married anti-child slavery activist who was the inspiration for the Sound of Freedom film, has been dashed by allegations of 7 women. Tim Ballard, who found the anti-sex trafficking organization, Operation Underground Railroad, a decade ago, abruptly resigned in June. Interesting, like, again, you know, you get the allegations, and then the person resigns, gets fired, even though, like, it doesn't go to court, even though, like, the allegations aren't proven. And again, like, my question is, like, if you genuinely didn't do it, right? Like, no, seriously, like, think about it this way. You didn't do it. Didn't fucking do it. How can you prove you didn't do it? Like, what is, like, the procedure to show... Because I saw Anna Kasparian. Apparently, she's back. Anna Kasparian was like, oh, well, if you don't want to be fired, then don't do it. Don't rape it. And it's like, okay, Anna, but, like, what if you didn't do it? That's the question that people have. What if you, like, genuinely, legitimately did not do it? What then? How does he go about proving to you that he did? Like, what exactly would you expect from him? That's my question. Right? Like, what from him? Like, what? At least in the case of Andrew Tate, the justice system is gathering evidence and they're going to send it to trial. So in the case of Andrew Tate, I understand that it's judicial. But in the case of these guys, it's not even judicial. They're not even going to the courts. That's the problem. Like, Andrew Tate at least can prove he didn't by hiring a lawyer. I mean, he's going to go to court. You're going to see, like, what exactly is brought against him. We're going to see what the evidence is. We're going to see how he rebukes it, if he can rebuke it. Right? Like, that is the difference between these scenarios. In the case of Andrew Tate, I have seen him on video confessing to the crime in his own TikTok videos, which he took down, in his own website, which he took down. He's going to have a hard time proving that the allegations aren't what is being said. I saw chat logs. Like, it's not baseless in his case. I know there are Andrew Tate fans that either don't know about these things or they try to ignore it, but they're going to appear in court. Like, he's going to have to go to court. He's going to face the accuser. He's going to look at what the allegations are. And he's going to try to explain them away. Now, if he manages to explain them away, he's going to be found not guilty. If he can't explain them away, he's going to go to prison. But, like, this is a fair system, right? Compared to this. I mean, compared to this, like, what can you do? There's nothing you can do. They're not even going to court. Like, they're not charging you. They're not showing you any evidence. They're not doing anything. So apparently he allegedly pressured women to share a bed or shower with him during the missions, suggesting it was necessary to fool the traffickers, the sources claim. This is so fucking bizarre, though. Like, are you telling me that women are like... There is no woman that I know that would believe this lie. Like if you suggested this to a woman in Romania, like, assuming it's true, because I don't believe it's true, by the way. It sounds so fucking stupid. But, like, assuming it's true, I don't know a single woman that would be like, hey, we need to share a shower in order to fool the... No one would believe it. Do I have women in the chat? I must have women in the chat. Would you believe that? If I told you, like, hey, lady, we need to share a shower in order to fool the perpetrators. Like, how many of you would go like, yeah, V, sure. The outcome of the investigation wasn't immediately clear. He hasn't publicly addressed the allegations. But, like, that's the thing. Like, what can you address publicly? Like, if you say you didn't do it, they will say, well, that just proves. That's what a guilty person does. I mean, any guilty person would say that they didn't do it. And if you don't address it, see, he must be guilty, because why else didn't he address it? And if you admit, well, he did it, he admits, like, there is no move that you can make where it's going to say, yeah, like, he actually is innocent. A spokesperson for Our also wouldn't address the claims leveled against Ballard, but said in a statement Monday that the organization is dedicated to combating sexual abuse and does not tolerate sexual harassment or discrimination by anyone in the organization. Prior to the allegations being made public, the Church of Jesus Christ, I'm not kidding, that's what it's called, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Wait, like, what type of church uses a sausage as a name? The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It's like 9 fucking names. Who came up with this? Why so many? Why can't you just say the Latter-day Saints Church? The Church of Jesus Christ. Why don't you like the Church of Jesus Christ of Nazareth, Latter-day Saints, of which Ballard is a member, had put out a statement accusing the activist of exploiting his relationship with Mormon elder Russell Ballard to promote personal and financial interest. Is he a Mormon though? Yeah, you know, like, by the way, I don't know much about Mormonism, but I always found it fascinating in a way. Like from what I understand, Mormonism is that in the Bible they don't mention the United States at all. Right? Like the Bible usually takes place in the Middle East. They don't even acknowledge that there's a Europe, right? It's just like the setting, I mean, right? Like you got Jesus. He travels a little bit from Bethlehem and right, like Nazareth and stuff. Like you got that. You got Judea, right? So like the Bible is very like Middle Eastern focused. And then you have like the trilogy. You have the Quran. And also in the Quran, it's still like Middle Eastern focused. But it's at least possibly implied that there's a Europe somewhere, right? But they don't mention the United States at all. Like neither the Old Testament, the New Testament, or the trilogy, the Quran. They don't really mention that there's a that there's an America, like another continent, right? And then you have like the Mormon religion, and they're like, no, actually, it's the spin-off, isn't it? No, am I correct? Like, I don't want to, but like, I'm thinking that the trilogy takes place in the Middle East, and they have like a spin-off, which is the Mormon religion. Jesus was in Utah? I'm not, no, seriously, I don't know. I'm not making fun, like, we don't have any Mormons, or maybe we do, like, a couple in Romania. But like, all I know about Mormonism is from South Park. So I'm genuinely, like, curious. Is there... I'm going to ask ChatGPT, hold on. I'm going to ask ChatGPT because I'm really curious about this. I need to find out. It's so interesting that it actually caught on. Like you don't have like Christianity the Japanese version or the Chinese version. You do have like the American version, which is kind of cool. I did hear that they have an interesting take on black people, the Mormons, I mean. So hold on. What does has Jesus ever been to America according to the Mormon religion? Yes, according to the teachings of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Oh, this is what the Mormons mean. Okay, I genuinely like didn't know. Jesus Christ visited the America after his resurrection. This belief is based on the Book of Mormon, which is considered by the members of the LDS Church to be another testament of Jesus Christ. In the Book of Mormon, after his resurrection, Jesus Christ appeared to the Nephites, a group of people living in the Americas, during his visit, as described as in the Book of Free Nephi, chapter 11 to 28. He taught the people to perform miracles and established his church. He echoed many of his teachings. He gave in the Holy Land and introduced additional teachings specific to the people of Americas. It is important to note that the belief is unique to LDS Church and other related Latter-day Saints movement churches. Most other Christian denominations do not accept the Book of Mormon as scripture and do not believe that Jesus visited America. How did Jesus travel to America? The Book of Mormon did not provide explicit data about the method or mechanism of which Jesus Christ traveled to America. His appearance is presented as a divine and miraculous context. It is described that the people looked up and beheld a man descending out of heaven. This implies that his arrival was a supernatural event rather than journeying through conventional means of travel. Members of the Church of Christ of Latter-day Saints believe that Jesus Christ's visitation to the America was a divine manifestation and does not subject to the ordinary constraints of time and space. Okay, but like, hold on. Wouldn't this contradict the New Testament, where it says that the second coming of Jesus would bring the end days? Considering that Jesus came to America, isn't this as a second coming? This is what ChatGPT has to say. The Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints, or the Mormons, differentiate between the Jesus Christ post-resurrection appearance, as described in the Book of Mormon, and the anticipated second coming of Christ, as the prophesied in the New Testament. The post-resurrection appearance, after his resurrection, appears to his disciples and other followers in Jerusalem. These appearances were to selected individuals or groups, and were not universal or global manifestation. So the second coming, the New Testament describes the second coming as a dramatic worldwide event where every eye shall see him. This event will be accompanied by a significant cataclysm. Okay, so basically they're saying that even though he came back a second time, only a few people has saw him. So it's not the second coming, right? The second coming is when everyone sees him. No, it fits. Like it actually, it makes sense. It's coherent. There's no plot hole here. If you put this on EFAP, they will actually not have anything to complain because it's true. Mormonism is basically on the same level as canon, as fanfic on Wattpad. Also, it has a lot of members because they had officially allowed hebaphilia or polygamy. I mean, I see. That makes a lot of sense. A lot of blasphemy in this chat. Shut the fuck up. This is... Who's blaspheming whom? You're blaspheming against the Mormons now. You just have to believe I saw him, bro. Bro, like, you do realize that this is literally every religion. If you're going to cherry pick the Mormons for this, with like hashtag you just gotta believe I saw him, well, the entire Christianity is now put in danger. And Islam, actually. I mean, most religions have like the you gotta believe I saw him level. I don't think like there's a single one where it's like without like dude, trust me, bro. Usually like most religions on earth are like you gotta believe this or consequences. Right? Like you wanna integrate with us, you wanna live with us in our society, you gotta believe it. Or consequences. And the consequences aren't necessarily like after you die. It's not hellfire. No. It's like people don't do business with you. People don't want to associate with you. That type of thing. Yeah, literally, God got me pregnant. I want to know how that conversation goes. You know, when I was a kid, I didn't really understand it. Like, I genuinely believed in the Bible to the point where, like, yeah, I mean, miracles can happen and stuff. But, like, imagine if your wife comes up to you and is like, well, I'm pregnant. And you're like, holy shit. And like, well, no, God got me pregnant. If I'm not mistaken, though, I may be wrong, but I do think that Jesus' father got a visit from an angel as well. So, like, before he could spurg out, he got it. All right, well, actually, hold on. I'll ask ChatGPT. ChatGPT knows the way. So, how did Joseph accept the fact that Mary was pregnant with God's son? So the account of Joseph's acceptance of Mary's miraculous conception is found in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 1. According to this is how the birth of Jesus Messiah came about. His mother, Mary, was pledged to be married to Joseph. But because they came together, she was found to be pregnant through the Holy Spirit. Because Joseph, her husband, was faithful to the law, and yet did not want to expose her to the public disgrace, he had in mind to divorce her quietly. But after he had considered this, an angel of the Lord appeared to him in a dream and said, Joseph, son of David, do not be afraid to take Mary home as your wife, because what is conceived in her is from the Holy Spirit. She will give birth to a son, and you are to give him the name Jesus because he will have save his people from sin. But even then, it's like, okay, angel of the Lord, I do understand this, but like, why is God cocking me out of all people? All this took place to fulfill what the Lord had said throughout the prophecy, that the virgin will conceive and give birth to a son, and they will call him Emmanuel, which means God with us. When Joseph well copied, did what the angel told the Lord had commanded him, and took Mary home as his wife. But he did not consummate their marriage until she gave birth to a son. See, I think like this is actually being debated. I don't know. The Catholics, I think, like the Catholics are absolutely fucking delusional in this take. Like they believe Mary actually remained a virgin until the remaining days, or is it the Catholic? Hold on, let me ask ChatGPT. I don't want to be wrong on this one. Is there a religious denomination that believes Mary stayed virgin until death? Yes! Oh, fucking hell. Apparently, the Roman Catholic Church... Oh, I was right. Yeah, the perpetual virginity of Mary. The woman was married, Pope. The woman was married. Why the fuck? Like, I understand the Jesus thing, but like, that is a one-off. Why would she continue to be a virgin after giving birth? The Orthodox Church also upholds the belief in her virginity. Yeah, but they're wrong as well. No, seriously, it doesn't make sense. The Protestants are based on this. Like, she is a married woman, right? I mean, just because she gave birth to Jesus, and she was a virgin even afterwards, alright? There is no reason why she and Joseph wouldn't continue life as normal human beings that are married. I mean... I'm not an expert here, but like, anyway, right, regarding Joseph, I do understand where he is coming from, alright? Like, listen to this, right? So let's say that your wife is coming home, and she's pregnant, and you're like, oh shit, well, I guess I gotta divorce her then. And then you get a visit from an angel of the Lord in your dream. For some reason you believe it, right? Like, even though it's a dream, you're like, oh wow, that shit seemed real. So now you're told you need to get the fuck out. You need to get the fuck out of the city because they're going to kill all the kids there, right? So if you didn't believe up until then, when news comes out, it's like, well, they actually did butcher and massacre every child. You're like, holy shit. Then you start believing. And if it's not even that, when the Magi start appearing, then it's kind of solidified. It's also interesting, like, hold on, who are the wise men? Like, who, now I need to remind myself of the Bible. Who were the wise men in the Testament? Who were the wise men that visited Jesus? So apparently the wise men who visited Jesus are referred to the Magi, and the Magi are said to come from the east. Their location isn't specified, but places like Persia, Babylon, or even further east. Well, like Japanese people. The Bible does not specify the number of the Magi, but apparently it may be 3. And they bring gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Bible doesn't provide the names of the Magi. The Magi are described as wise men and are sometimes thought to be astrologers, given that they follow a star. They came to the Jerusalem seeking the one who has been born King of the Jews, saying that they saw his star when it rose, and they bring gifts. But that's it. Like, it's so weird when you think about it. It's like, is that what, you know, like when you watch a movie and there's like that interesting plot point, but that is never brought up or mentioned again. It's kind of like that. Because up until that point, like, Jesus is like really poor and they have to give birth in a stable and stuff. And they're like, oh, by the way, here's gold. It's like, who are you? A man from the east. And can you take me to your place? No. Take the gold. Shut the fuck up. I'm leaving. But then why did you bring it? Wise men, you mean the patriarchy, yes. They tell fortunes. I genuinely do not know. Like, it's so weird. Because it's like, it's implied. I mean, they're called magi. Like, can they cast spells? Do they manage to have access to, like, third level divinity spells? I don't know. It's never mentioned. It's a long fucking journey as well. Right? So, like, they're traveling all the, like, when they're the magi and they're going, and, like, we're talking about ancient time. Like, not even middle age level. We're talking about the ancient time. Like, do you know how difficult it is to travel in the ancient time? Like, they're bandits and highwaymen, and most places are untamed. Like, they have wild animals and stuff. It's dangerous. Life-threatening, even. But no, they're traveling, right? Like, they're traveling, like, kingdoms apart. And eventually they arrive. And they present their gifts and they leave. And they don't elaborate. Ever. It's so fucking weird. Like, even when I was a kid, I was like, well, these people are so cool. It's like the Magi, they're fucking cool. And then they're never mentioned. Again. I was like, what? Why didn't they stay there, though? Like, I would stay there. Like, holy shit. Like, imagine this, you know, like, Jesus is born. And you're like, whoa, this sounds like the beginning of an epic saga. An adventure, even. I want to hang around, see what happens. Spies for whom? I know I was interested in spying on G. They didn't even spy. Like, if they were a spy, they were bad spies. They didn't even hang around. She sure as shit didn't have her hymen anymore. Yeah, but, like, there are women that are still virgin without the hymen, so that's fine. I guess, like, the hymen is a way you can tell. It's not necessarily if you're a virgin or not. In Belgium, on the 6th of January, it is custom for children to dress up as these magi and go trick-or-treating. That is, singing a song specific for the purpose in front of people's doors. That's so sweet. They'd get candy. I think they're Zoroastrian priests, not magicians. Dude, they're called magi in the Bible. Like, they don't mention this. Because I remember, like, this was one of my favorite stories in the Bible. When I was a kid, I was reading the Bible. And it's like, you get, like, these 3 wise men. And it wasn't actually 3. In the Bible, they don't mention the number. That's later on popularized. But it's like, you get, like, these wise men coming on, the magi. And they're, like, bringing gifts. And then they leave. And you're like, that's it? Yeah. But why, though? I don't know. Ask ChatGPT about the 2 magicians that confronted Moses. That I know about those as well. Yeah. Apparently, like, they could replicate some of Moses' miracles. Up until, like, I think it's, like, the 5th plague or some shit. Like, you know, it's kind of interesting. Because, like, if you watch the cartoon, there's a cartoon called The Prince of Egypt. He's not black, by the way. He has, like, Moses, and usually, like, the magi in the cartoon, they use, like, parlor tricks in order to mimic. Like, the first thing is, like, Moses uses his staff, and the staff turns into a snake. And the magicians also make their staves turn into snakes, but Moses' snake eats the other snake. And I'm like, well, hold on a little bit. How the fuck do they make magic? Because I understand, like, Moses has the power of God, right? So, like, that makes sense. Like, he puts the staff down and the staff turns into a snake, right? Because God wills it, like, okay, fine. But how did the mages do it? It's never explained. I think, like, the church believes that Satan was trying to replicate it. And I'm like, but, like, what's the point, though? What interest did Satan have in all of this? Like, God, if you actually read the Bible, it says that God hardened the Pharaoh's heart. Like this is actually, like, one of the, my God, like, the Old Testament, holy shit. If you read the Old Testament, like, not actually just, like, look at the stories popularized, like, you actually read it, God was playing both sides, man. Like, for example, with the slaves, he hardens the Pharaoh's heart so that he doesn't want to release the slaves, and then gets Moses to try to convince the Pharaoh. But it's like, Moses has no chance in convincing the Pharaoh because God hardened his heart. So it's like, okay, well, whatever. But you just don't get it. It's like, why do the mages from the Pharaoh manage to create miracles as well? I mean, sure, you know, they're not as powerful as God's miracles. Like, I get that. But, like, the fact that they're miracles that exist are surprising. And then there's, like, 2 things in the Bible that in the Old Testament that bewildered me. One of them is when God says, I'm going to punish the Egyptian and their gods. And I'm thinking like, hold on. Just chotomate. What do you mean they're Egyptians and their gods? It's like, did the gods of Egypt, like, are they actually real? Like, because I understand, right? Like, because God is basically saying that he's more powerful, but like, dude, you just said that there are no other gods before you, and now you're like, well, I'm going to punish the Egyptian and their gods. I'm like, okay, but... So, like, that is one of them. Yeah, he did interfere. Well, see... The church had hundreds of years to try to explain these inconsistencies. Like, if you look at an episode of EFAP, where they're sitting like 10 hours to try to, like, talk about a movie, the church had done that for, like, thousands of years trying to explain these inconsistencies. And what they came up with is that he didn't actually, like, interfere with the Pharaoh's free will. But, like, by hardening his heart, the way they interpret it is, like, imagine, like, Moses had to roll, like, a... +5 on his charisma saving throws, you know? Like, it basically made it, like, a lot more difficult for Moses to persuade the Pharaoh. The second one is, what they don't tell you, those magicians' head went rolling because Moses made a fool of the Pharaoh. Oh, no, like, they did tell you that. Yeah, I mean, that does make sense. But, yeah, like, he killed the magicians at one point. I guess, like, their power level wasn't high enough. Yeah, Old Testament is wacky as fuck. There's another one where, God apparently cannot defeat iron chariots. Like, hold on. Let me actually... Because, like, there are certain points in the Bible, and you don't know, is it, like, because the translation is bad? This is what the church is usually going with. It's like the translation is bad or the context doesn't make sense. Is God weak to iron chariots? So it's in a passage in the book of Judges in the Old Testament, Judges 1:19. And it says that the Lord was with the men of Judah. They took possession of the hill country, but they were unable to drive the people from the plains, because they had chariots filled with iron. The verse does not imply that God himself is weak to iron chariots, but it records that the tribe of Judah, despite having God on their side, were unable to face the challenges of the people from the valley because they were armed with iron chariots. So how does the church explain it? Well, the church says that throughout the Bible, God demonstrates his power over nature, nations, and various circumstances. The presence of formidable opponents or obstacles like iron chariots in this instance serves to highlight the faith, persistence, and growth of God's people rather than a limitation on God's part. Even like, no, sorry, I don't buy this. I don't accept it. Like, if you have God on your side, it doesn't matter if they had chariots made out of composite strong metal, right? Like, they could have chariots with Kevlar vest around them. I don't fucking care. You have God on your side. You should be able to take those chariots. Punish Egyptian gods in the sense they're fake. Yeah, this is how, like, the church explains it, but, like, in the Bible, the way it's written. How can you punish, like, a fake Egyptian god? Like, what did they say? Like, I would punish the Egyptian and their fake gods, right? Like, or prove that their gods are fake or something. Whatever. That is the only thing you don't buy? Well, it's one of the many things that I don't buy, but yes. Like, when you read the passage, you're like, wait, what? Like, how? How, like this does not make sense. So, like, these people had God on their side, so they BTFO everyone. Okay, that makes sense. But they couldn't beat the people in the valley because they had iron chariots. Like, hold on a little bit. And we're talking about iron chariots. Like, they didn't have, like, RPGs, right? Like, they didn't have, like, AR-15s. No, they had iron chariots. Okay, but, like, still. Demo. A lot of mythology, there are magic creatures that can't touch iron. No, I genuinely think that the Iron Chariot was like the Abrams tank of that time period. Like, iron is actually difficult to come by and to make. So them having this technology would make them a little bit overpowered, yes. God was on their side, but the enemy had Apache attack helicopters and cruise missiles. But like, even then, I would still expect God to win. Like, your missiles wouldn't fire. Your helicopters would go pew 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 pew. You know, like there would still be divine fuckery that would make it so that these people aren't able to operate their military equipment. My point, though, is that the Bible holds a lot of wisdom, and Christianity has a lot of wisdom, and most of that wisdom is really good. But if you actually read the Bible, like the Old Testament specifically, the New Testament is a lot better. But the Old Testament, there are a couple of things that I don't particularly find consistent. And let's put it like that. There are some inconsistencies, and especially when you look at how the mainstream, not the mainstream, the pop culture has treated these inconsistencies. It's even worse. It's not even that they're all that effective compared to cavalry archers, but having chariots meant you had the resources for a very well-equipped army. Well, that is true, but like, you also need to take into account that we're talking about antiquity, right? So like, antiquity, they didn't really have strong cavalry and the same training that we see in the medieval time period. So yeah, like them having chariots basically shows like they had so much iron that they could afford to make chariots. You're absolutely correct. Chariots were not common back then. Yeah, they weren't. I think like the Egyptians had them, and there are like a couple more people that had chariots, but yeah, like they weren't common at all. And not only that, like if you have a chariot, you can actually transport a lot of shit, right? So even if you don't use them for battle, like you can transport more arrows, equipment, food. Anyway, I'll end it here. Thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it. And as always, I'll see you in the comment section.